There we go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Baltimore County House Delegation on 21st of March. And we today are going to take up a couple of bills that have been generously supplied to us by the Senate. But first, we have a couple of guests. We originally scheduled, because we thought there are two major universities that are state funded, or at least in part, mostly, that are in Baltimore County, and we thought it'd be nice to hear from them on separate weeks. And this week we have Mark Ginsburg from Towson University, and kind of, I don't want to say brand new, but he's kind of a new president there, and we're pleased to have him. But interestingly, our state senator, Chris Van Hollen, was denied an opportunity to meet with us when we had a funeral the other morning, and we postponed our meeting. He continued to indicate interest, and for that, I think, we really need to honor his interest in coming and talking to us, and him prioritizing Baltimore County. So we have today with us, and they're going to kind of go together, and we can ask them questions as a pair because they seem to get along. That's what their staffs tell me. And given the kind of people they are, that wouldn't surprise me even a little bit. We're pleased to have both Senator Chris Van Hollen and President Mark Ginsburg with us today. Now, President Ginsburg, Doctor, I'm sure. President Ginsburg was scheduled, so we were going to let him go first, but he understands protocol, and he has insisted that I recognize Senator Van Hollen to speak first. So,
Absolutely.
Senator Van Hollen, you have the floor, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And it's great to be with all of you, members of the Baltimore County delegation. I know you're very busy, just past the crossover date. So thanks for everything you're doing. It's great to be here with President Ginsburg. And as we just said in the pre-call, we just met the other day and discussed a number of issues important to Towson University. And thank you again, President Ginsburg, for your leadership there, and to everybody on the call for your support. Madam Speaker, it's always good to see you. And again, condolences on the loss of your son. I'm going to be brief and look forward to any questions. I mean, I was actually out in Baltimore County last night until a little after 9 o'clock at Woodlawn High School. Council Member Young had a town hall meeting. I was joined by Senator Brooks and Congressman Mfume and Congressman Olszewski. And as you can imagine, lots of concern about everything happening throughout the federal government and beyond, including at the Social Security Administration in Woodlawn. And so we had lots of questions related to the Musk operation and the so-called DOGE effort. Yesterday, of course, another court handed down an opinion saying that it was issuing I believe it was a TRO, or preliminary injunction, against Musk's access to very sensitive information at the Social Security Administration, information, on tens and tens of millions of Americans. That was, of course, just the latest lawsuit that put a halt, at least temporarily, maybe permanently, to a lot of the illegal actions by the Musk operation. This is not a sort of surgical effort to save money. In my view, it's clearly not even an effort toward greater government efficiency. If that were true, you wouldn't start by firing all the inspector generals in the U.S. government. Their job, of course, as independent watchdogs, is to look out for waste, fraud, and abuse. So what we're seeing, and we saw it in real time when Elon Musk had a chainsaw when he met at the CPAC meeting, and that's the approach they're taking, and that's why they're running into so many legal problems going forward. But the fallout is real, the harm is real, and of course, the harm is nationwide. But when it comes to firing federal employees, there's obviously a concentration of federal employees in the Maryland, DC, and Virginia area. But the services they provide are nationwide. And so we're seeing a very harmful impact already there, including on our veterans. And I was just in Baltimore County again the other day to highlight that issue. Happy to answer any questions on that front. The one other thing I wanted to flag for all of you this morning is sort of the next big thing in the Congress will be what's called budget reconciliation. right now, the way this is being set up is to provide a big tax cut. It will disproportionately go to the wealthiest in the country. And the proposal calls for deep cuts in a number of areas that are important to millions of Americans, including Medicaid. And this is not just my conjecture. This is what the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has said. They sort of looked at the budget math here in the proposals and said that, Medicaid and Medicare could take a hit, but Medicaid, if you did this with Medicaid, it would be about $880 billion. That would be a big hit, of course, to seniors in nursing homes, to families with kids with disabilities, and other people who really rely on Medicaid. And we have well over a million Americans, a million Marylanders in that category. So, and it would be a very big hit to the state budget as well. So I did want to flag that. We plan to fight this as we move forward, but that is certainly next big thing up in the United States Congress. So obviously lots more to cover. I do want to mention that Jessica Clayton, who's my regional director, is with us, and thank her for being, my eyes and ears when I can't be there in person. But let me just again close by thanking all of you, regardless of political party. Look forward to working with all of you in the days ahead, and best wishes on your final rounds here in Annapolis.
Thank you. And thank you for that frank and succinct evaluation of some of the changes that we're experiencing. We're going to go directly to President Ginsburg and let him talk about Towson a little bit, and then we'll take questions, and you can direct your questions generally or to either one of these gentlemen. So, Dr. Ginsburg, you're up.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for joining me this morning, and thank you for the invitation to be with you. I really do appreciate it. Pleased to tell you a little bit about Towson and where we're standing and what we're doing, and be happy also with the Senator to take any questions and engage in dialogue. Let me say that it's been the greatest honor and privilege of my career to come to Towson. This is my second time being in Baltimore, actually. Some of you may know that I spent a number of years earlier in my career at Johns Hopkins before going over to George Mason in Virginia, where I spent the last 14 years as a dean and then provost, and came to Towson in the fall of 23. So this is the end, or nearing the end, of my second academic year here at a great university. And I often tell people that my job is simple in one hand, but really more complex in the other. And it's how do you help to make a great university even greater? And that's really what I've been trying to do. And I tell people all the time too that Towson University is an engine. It's an engine of opportunity and an engine of access. With our nearly 20,000 students, more than 4,000 of whom, by the way, hail from Baltimore County. About 25% of our student body, a little bit less than that, between 22 and 25%, come from the county. So we're an engine of opportunity, an engine of access. We're also an engine of innovation. We're a public comprehensive research university, just listed as one of the research universities in the country, which we're very, very proud of, and a university that's making a difference in the lives of Marylanders every day. We're an engine of workforce development, an engine of economic development, an engine of workforce and economic development for the county, for the state, and literally for the entire region in the country. And so I often tell people, and I'll say to you, that there are many, many great universities in Maryland. Towson is one, certainly having come from Hopkins is another. Yet at Towson, we strive to be not just a great university in Maryland, we strive to be a great university for Maryland. And that's a very important frame. That's a very important frame. So about 20,000 students, about nearly 60% of our students identify themselves as being from a racial or ethnic minority group. 20% of our students are first generation, first in their family to attend college. And the latest rankings of universities position us in territory that Towson is now becoming accustomed to be as a nationally respected university. The Wall Street Journal just 3 months ago rated one of the major rating systems in the country that looks at and rates and ranks university. TU was ranked as the #1 public university in the state of Maryland and the number 15 public university in the country. And that's a big deal for our university. And the reason for our high rankings are because of the social mobility work that we do, that we're very agile at helping students get from the point A that they begin to the point B that they envision. And we're very, very proud of taking our students from a place where they are to a place they want to be. And that's really helped to propel Towson in our rankings. Historically, TU is known for two important spires of excellence. We're still known for them: education and nursing. Two very important historical parts of the university. The College of Education at Towson has always been and continues to be the largest college of education in Maryland. For years, for decades, for generations, it was the largest college here on our campus. Today, our College of Education remains important. It remains the largest in the state, but it's the smallest of our six colleges. And that's a challenge for the state. That's a challenge for the university. And that's something we're really trying to work at. By the way, about 40% of our students, and this goes back to what the senator was talking about with the turbulence in the air from Washington, about 40% of our students come to Towson with some form of federal financial aid. And we're also one of the largest employers of Baltimore County. As you know, we employ over 3,000, over 3,100 people. We're proud that about 92% of our graduates stay in the region, which really amplifies the fact that we are an engine of economic and workforce development for the state. One of the programs that you may know about, although we have over 100 majors and over 100 minors, the most popular now are business, computer science, and cybersecurity, training in the mental health professions, psychology being one of the most popular majors on our campus. Our College of Health Professions trains more health professionals at the undergraduate and master's level than any other institution in Maryland. And so we're really proud of how we contribute to the state. But one area that you may not know of, some of you in the Towson area probably have been there, is the Armory or the Startup Program, which is an accelerator or an incubator around the economic development of our region. And it has already spawned more than 53 new business ventures. It's raised more than $15 million in capital, and it's added over 200 new employees to our region. And of course, the front porches of our university are well known. Our Division I athletic programs, our basketball team this year winning the Coastal Athletic Association Conference, our front porch also being our performing arts programs, and music, dance, theater, and the like, literally bringing thousands, last year over 32,000 people to our arts venues to come to a performing arts venue. And of course, we also have the Dr. Nancy Grasmick Leadership Institute, which has been a forerunner in creating opportunities for leadership development in the public, nonprofit, and private sectors in our region. And so TU remains and continues to be a university that's growing in size. We've had the largest freshman classes over the last 3 years in the history of the university. For fall 25, we have the largest number of applications for admission to the university in the history of TU. And so all of the parameters, all of the metrics, all of what we look at in terms of the performance of our university continues to be positive. And I'll say two more things, then I'll just open it up for questions and go back to the group and with the senator. Is our graduation rates are really quite unique for public or private universities. When we look at our graduation rates and we try to look at them by cohorts, that is, by men and women, by folks of different racial or ethnic groups, by where students come from, by in-state, out-of-state, by the county they come from in the state of Maryland, what we find, and this is very, very unusual, there are only a couple of universities in the country that can say that, is there are insignificant differences between any of those groups. So our students are graduating at about a 72% rate, which is very high for a public university, irrespective. And in fact, the highest graduation cohort at our university, the highest graduation cohort, this is quite unique, are African-American women. And we're very proud. We're very proud to be a university that's making a difference in individual lives, making a difference in the life of our community, and making a difference in the life of our state. Now, let me just finalize my comments by saying there's turbulence in the air, as the senator was saying. Certainly, we are in the midst of tightening our belt, as we need to do because of the reduction of about 5% in USM funding for us. That's about an $11 million reduction in our state appropriation. That's overall about a 2.5% cut in our entire budget. That's meaningful, but that's doable. But we do worry about the future. And we do worry, as I know you do, as our representatives in the General Assembly, about what the budget outlook is going to be for the coming couple of years. But of course, we also are very worried about the quote Trump effect. And what we're finding is that many of our students have family members who have been displaced in their workplace by the federal government. We have a number of international students who and other students who have birthright citizenship, but whose parents may not, who are worried all the time about their future and their parents' future. We have a number of grants that have been clawed back by the federal government because lots of what we do is to provide opportunity for students that fall within the general framework that some call DEI. We call it making opportunities and providing access to people. And so we have about $25 million of grants at risk. But what's really at risk, we think, is the opportunity for students who wouldn't otherwise have an opportunity to afford a college education to come to a high quality university like Towson and have an education, to better themselves, to prepare themselves for a career, to prepare themselves for civic and community engagement. And so there's a lot at risk at the moment. There's a lot of uncertainty at the moment. And we look forward to continuing to grow the university's opportunities and trying to make sense of the uncertainties and the turbulence that's around us. So with that, let me stop to say thank you all very much again. And we really do appreciate the support of our friends and colleagues in the General Assembly. You are what make this university go. The public commitment of Maryland to public higher education is among the best in the country. And we're deeply, deeply grateful for your support and continued engagement with us. So let me stop there. Thank you again for the opportunity, and a pleasure to be with Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you both very much. I'm going to take a point of privilege and start off the questioning here. First of all, I want to thank Towson because you are intimately involved with training and working with people in understanding how to administer community schools,
Yes.
which I consider to be one of the most important linchpins of the blueprint. It's the
Yes.
one that is creating some of our biggest immediate gains in some of our areas of concentrations of poverty. And I know that you are part of supporting that. We appreciate that. I'm going to ask because I do delve into education, not as much post-secondary, but it matters because of what I just said. Generally, the closing of the education department, which seems imminent, how is that going to affect, and Senator Van Hollen, you as well, because it's happening in your backyard, how is this going to affect K-12 education and post-secondary education?
So do you want to start? Do you want to first start, Senator, or do you want me to go?
You're muted, Senator. Happens all the time.
I would suggest, Mr. President, why don't you talk about the impact on education?
Sure.
Then I'm happy to talk about where we go from
Well,
here.
I think the impact is going to be almost incalculable, to be candid. The notion of returning education to the states is kind of a shadow for minimizing the importance of education and reducing the funding for education. We are deeply worried about what it'll mean for P12. We're deeply worried about what it'll mean for higher education. We're deeply worried about what it'll mean for students and for families. Financial aid, we think, is something that is going to be brought into question. And, when you have 40% of your students on federal financial aid, the Department of Education really has two major functions. One is it makes policy, but two, it serves almost like a bank, to be candid, where it's the primary funder of financial aid in the country. And when 40% of your students receive some kind of flow-through financial aid from the federal government, providing them with access to opportunities like a college education, and there's questions about also the value of a college education that's being raised every day by the administration, one has to step back and wonder about what the real agenda is and where that agenda is going. So I think the impact is almost incalculable, and I think it's going to be a very turbulent time.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll just add that this effort will be fought in the courts and in Congress, as others have. You saw President Trump issue an executive order yesterday. They had to issue a correction because they realized that they could not get rid of the Department of Education entirely by an executive order. But even the executive order that they issued, resulting in cutting, well over like half the positions in the Department of Education, will do great damage, and I also think is illegal. This is why the courts are so busy. I mean, President Ginsburg, you didn't mention, but just yesterday, a federal court judge in Boston ordered the Trump administration to pay $5 million in a federal grant for teacher training at Towson University because it was illegally withheld. And that's why you're seeing all of these cases and all of these orders being given. A Maryland federal court judge found that the dismantling of AID, the Agency for International Development, violated the constitutional separation of powers and ordered that it be sort of reinstated. The problem is the speed at which, the Musk operation is trying to illegally dismantle these agencies versus the speed of the courts. But I will give the courts a lot of credit for working to keep up, and all the lawyers and groups that are filing these lawsuits to prevent this sort of serial law breaking that's going on.
Well, let me just add too that I probably should have mentioned earlier, and I did. Senator and I talked about this the other day, that I'm not sure if this is a badge of honor or an albatross, but TU is one of 45 higher education institutions in the country that received notification from the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Education, which we're not sure even exists this morning anymore, but we still received a formal notice of investigation. So we are among the 45 universities in the country being investigated, and the reason for that allegedly is because our involvement in providing opportunities for minority students to seek doctoral education at universities outside of Towson University. In fact, it's a complicated set of issues indeed, but the fact that I wanted the delegation to know that Towson is the only university in Maryland that is part of this group of 45 that's being investigated now by the federal government, and that's very high stakes issue.
Okay, we got a handful of hands up, and so I'm going to recognize Delegate Cardin. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you both very much for coming. It's always an honor to be able to hear from you.
Thanks, John.
So, first of all, Senator, I have so many questions, but I'm just going to limit it. The National Transportation Safety Board came out with an opinion about the Key Bridge, which was not a very kind one. Could that impact reimbursements or monies coming from the federal government? That's number one. And number two is the IRS. I'm very concerned about reductions in the IRS and the inability to actually accomplish its goal of keeping our budget straight. That's for the senator. And then for the president, we love Towson. You guys are awesome. If you can give us a quick update on anti-Semitism on campus, and you mentioned 25 million that is at stake, potential 25 million in grants at stake. Is that the only exposure you have, or is there potentially future exposure of a lot more for Towson based on what the federal government is doing? Thank you both very much.
I'll go first.
You guys can arm wrestle for all those.
Yeah. Let me just jump in, Delegate Cardin. Always good to be with you and to work with you. Look, on the Key Bridge, I'm confident that the funds that we secured in December will be there. It's called the Emergency Relief Fund. It's a national fund. We got $8 billion in additional monies to help both rebuild Key Bridge, but also support other, projects around the country where they had emergency situations. So I'm confident that will remain secure. I did speak to the chair of the National Transportation Safety Board. She called me just before those findings were released. Obviously, something that the state of Maryland needs to look into, not just to learn about what might have been done differently with respect to the Key Bridge, but obviously the Chesapeake Bay bridges are something that I expect that the state will be looking at closely in terms of what measures need to be taken, may need to be taken to protect the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. It was one of the bridges, as you know, that were on the list that were issued yesterday, where the analysis showed that probably preventative measures should be taken. With respect to the IRS, I share your concern. I mean, this is just one of those situations where people are taking an extremely short-sighted position. So again, the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office indicated that when we increased funding to support the IRS's efforts to go after very rich tax deadbeats. So this is not an expansion of tax liability. This is collecting taxes that are already due and owing, but not being paid by very wealthy people or partnerships or corporations. The Congressional Budget Office indicated that the additional monies that we invested in the IRS, especially to hire people who are quite expert at getting after these tax shelters or illegal tax shelters, that it would actually bring in more revenue to the federal government. So you're absolutely right. When you cut back on those efforts, you actually reduce the amount of revenue that comes into the federal government by allowing very wealthy tax deadbeats to continue to duck their obligations to the country. So that's one of many, as you indicated, concerns I have with respect to what's happening.
Thanks. And President Ginsburg, there was questions about the loss of money and also dealing with anti-Semitism on campus.
Yeah. Thanks very much for that question, John, too. I'm very proud of how we at Towson both handled and created an environment on our campus, particularly in the last academic year, in response to, but also to modulate all of the issues that were going on campuses around the country. And our approach here was a simple one: to engage in dialogue in a continual way and to set very clear limits for folks around time, place, and manner about when is the time to demonstrate, how the place that can take place, and the manner in which things could happen. I think a combination of engagement and continual conversation and dialogue with all of our student groups on all sides of the question, on hosting a number of educational seminars and workshops and opportunities for academic interchange about key and critical issues helped, but certainly creating boundaries about what could and could not happen. And I'm very proud. We're about 18% of our students are of the Jewish faith, as I am myself. We stay very connected to our Hillel and Chabad, as well as to our Islamic Student Association on campus. And I'm very pleased that I think we were, frankly, one of the models. I'll tell you that I was in D.C. on Sunday, and a quick aside, we are one of 3 universities that are co-sponsoring a program that just concluded yesterday in D.C. called the Two Museums Program. It's ourselves, Harvard, and Delphi. And it was a program to take students during the spring break period, which is the last day of today, and to have a week-long seminar in D.C. that was based both at the Holocaust Museum and the African American Museum. It brought African American and Jewish students together to study the Holocaust and their implications and issues of structural racism and the implications by hosting seminars with noted national efforts at both museums. And it was an incredibly successful program. And I think when we do things like that, we bring students from different groups together, when we talk with each other about issues, we cannot end anti-Semitism in this country. I've experienced it my entire life. But we can certainly work to deal with the issues and to discuss differences we have. So really proud about that work. In terms of the grants, we have about 25 million of federal grants that potentially are at risk. The bigger risk for us, I think, is the issue of federal financial aid for students. And if there is a huge reduction in that, we're in a different position than some of our colleagues in Baltimore. We don't have really any USAID money. Our friends at Johns Hopkins have lost considerable funds in that regard. Our NIH funds are relatively little compared to other institutions, but the risks are still great across the board with research grants, with training grants. As the senator said, we lost, but now we've retained, but we may lose again, a $5 million grant to train teachers, an important part of the workforce in Maryland. Again, that financial aid challenge and ambiguity, uncertainty looms large for us.
Mr. Chairman, 2 things. Number one, I apologize. I didn't know we were going to do the joint questioning format. I have to 9:30.
Okay,
So I'm sorry we got our signals crossed on that.
that's all right. It was a last minute.
I'm gonna have to
We
jump
kind of
off,
called
but
you in last minute, so we're
I,
glad.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and Jessica can, if there are any other issues that people want to relay, I appreciate that. I do want to quickly say that with respect to the NIH funding, for example, at Hopkins and other places, that's another case where a federal judge has blocked the effort to change the reimbursement formula, and we are working in Congress to push back on that as well. So it is doing some clear harm in the near term, but we're hoping to block the greater damage in the long term. And again, thank you all for what you're doing. Best wishes in Annapolis. I apologize. I didn't know we were going to do the mixed questioning. All right.
Sorry, and there was a last minute. It was a last minute agenda switch.
Got it. Take care.
We appreciate your interest in being here. We're glad you're here. Thanks. We'll
Thanks.
see you soon.
Thank you.
Okay. So we still have the president here. And we still have some
Yes.
questions. I've seen a couple of hands drop on that, and so you'll have to, if you have questions for Senator Van Hollen, you have to go find him, I suppose. A bunch of hands drop, and so now we're down to my very favorite, Delegate Phillips.
By the way, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Chair Ebersol, but
Go ahead.
can ask me.
Okay.
I will take them back. So I'll stay through this section.
Sure.
That's
Should
great.
we do them out loud, or should we just have people email you? What works best?
People can email me. That's great.
Okay, that's what we'll do.
Thank you.
And you all know how to do that, I hope. But if you need help with the email, certainly John Sanek can help you. Contact Jessica Clayton and start a dialogue with the senator. All right, now Scott Phillips.
Yeah, hi Scott.
Good morning. How you doing, Dr. Ginsburg?
Good.
It's great seeing you.
You too.
Yes. I had the wonderful opportunity to spend one of your holiday events hanging out with you.
That's right.
Yeah, so really good. So I'll ask some lighter questions. One is some of my colleagues have come to me about Whitney LeBlanc.
Yeah.
And they I guess honoring him in some way and maybe naming something after him. And for my colleagues that don't know, I think he was the first full professor, African-American professor at Towson University. So I'm curious about where that's going. My second question really is a question with hopefully that will spur a thought. We have some activity with the community college in Randallstown, and I've suggested to them that they connect with you on this idea of the startup, and maybe having a satellite version of the startup in the Randallstown community. So it's a thought, and how would you feel about that? And then, Mr. Chair, if I could, I do have a question for Jessica, but I'll wait on that one.
Sure. You can pose it. I'm not going to hold her feet to the fire to answer it, but let's go with your question for the president first.
Yeah, first time Professor LeBlanc, we're very interested and working very hard to create a legacy opportunity for honoring Professor LeBlanc. As you say, there's a real opportunity there, and I know we're working with a number of our alumni to make that happen. So hopeful to get that over the finish line and get to fruition. We did recently, you may know, name a plaza on campus, which is a gathering place for students, after Dean Chapman, who was the first African-American dean on campus and a beloved figure on this campus for many, many years. And still going around campus, people still, I of course didn't meet him. He was deceased before I arrived, but his family has been here, and I'm very, very proud that we can do that. But that we will be working towards a naming opportunity in honor of Professor LeBlanc, absolutely. In terms of satellite site for a startup, first I've heard of that, but we'd be very interested in talking about that. The startup's been incredibly successful. It's a great workspace for people. It's publicly available without fee. It has spawned now over 50 private ventures that are operating in the region. It's a great place for our students to learn about entrepreneurship, but also for members of the community to come and learn from both our faculty and our entrepreneur staff about moving from an idea to the marketplace. It's galvanized a number of venture capitalists in the region. And so I'm I would be very interested in having some conversations. If you can put us in touch with the right people, be happy to do that and help her broker those conversations. That'd be exciting.
Thank you very much. And so we will make that happen today.
Great, let's do it.
The second, and this really flows right into a question for Jessica. On Friday, as Dosh has been doing and what I will call Project 2025 activities, the latest set of agencies that were an executive order was issued all seem to have to do with minority business development or community development. I think it was the CDFI along with MBDA. And I know that the senator has been very supportive of both. Is the senator planning to do anything in terms of communicating with his peers? Those agencies affect every state in the nation. So just a question, Jessica.
Thank you, Delegate Phillips. I appreciate your questions, and I apologize that Senator Van Hollen isn't here to answer them. But yes, I mean, Senator Van Hollen's priorities clearly align with yours here. I have to assume that he will be speaking with his colleagues, but I know I'm making that assumption based on the fact of how outspoken he has been on every single one of these DOGE actions and the illegal actions that have been occurring. So I'm certainly willing to and will ask specifically about your question and the particular organizations that you mentioned or agencies that you mentioned, but that has been his way of responding and reacting to this situation.
Thank you. And for my colleagues, I used acronyms. So let me be clear. The Community Development Finance is, I forget what the I is, and the Minority Business Development Agency were the two agencies that I was referring to. So thank you, Jessica, for that response. And I will be forwarding some correspondence to the senator on those two issues as well.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and I will get with Vanessa on that if you'd like. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Phillips. President Ginsburg, we really appreciate that you shared some time with the senator, and we appreciate your answers. I don't see anybody else with hands up, so if you'd like to make a closing for us, we will. You can hang around if you want, but you probably have other things to do.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Eric. Well, first of all, let me say how much we appreciate our delegation and the support of the members of the General Assembly for not just Towson University, but the entire university system of Maryland. I had the honor, I said earlier, about working in Baltimore previously, and then I spent 14 years in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I can tell you, although George Mason's a great university, there is nothing in comparison to the USM in terms of its quality and its breadth, but most importantly, the support of the legislature for higher education in Maryland. We have a great system in Maryland. We have a great opportunity for students from the state to come to great universities. And as I said, my agenda is a simple one: how we make a great university greater. And with your help, with your support, with your advice, and your collaboration, we will continue to do that. And let me close with a point of personal privilege, Eric, to say I know my friend Eric Ebersole is a great fan of Towson University gymnastics.
True.
And just last week, they won the ECAC championships.
They're a great team.
And we think they're on their way to the NCAA, so the NCAA championships. And
I don't think my wife would mind me giving away that she was a college gymnast, and so she was actually on the Towson team. So we do go and watch them, and they're not only a very good team. Watching the camaraderie between the women on that team is really moving, heartening. So,
in an era where college athletics is changing so fast and changing in ways that many of us, including myself, have many concerns about, I'm really proud of we have student athletes, not athletes who at one time maybe were partial students. We really do have a high quality program, championship caliber program, great coaches, great kids, and you're right, the relationships they have are very important. So again, thank you for your support. Thanks for your time, and I very much appreciate the invitation.
I'll plug by saying that you're very welcoming to us if we want to come to arts events or sports events. Or
anytime. We'd love to have you on campus. Just let me know.
I think Katie Maloney is still on here somewhere,
Yeah.
and she's pretty easy to get a hold of and ask, can I please come to this?
Yeah.
And you're more than generous about those
Yeah,
things.
I see Kathy Forbes on the call. Kathy, thank you for all
She
your
has
support.
season tickets to the
Thanks for being on
basketball.
campus all the time, but one of our great supporters. Good to see you this morning. And good to see you all. Thanks again.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, that ends the presentation, the guest part of our program today. We're going to move into bill hearings. We're gonna do two bill hearings that I think we can vote on because these are bills that we have already taken up. There is a third one, and I'll explain why that one didn't make this list. But first, let's deal with those two. Both of these bills, I believe, the original sponsor of the House bill can give a little commentary, and if unless there's something that we think we probably have to do an amendment, but I'm going to turn the floor over to Delegate Stein, and we're going to start with Senate Bill 338, speed monitoring systems on the highways.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And last Friday, the delegation approved my House Bill 978 on this issue of speed monitoring systems with amendments. Initially, Senator West's bill before the delegation, SB 338, and in my bill were cross-filed. At this point, there are a few differences, so I would move to conform the Senate bill to the way the delegation approved House Bill 978 last week. And I know the senator is on the call, and he supports that, or if he'd like
Let's
to
go to
say
him real quick since he's here and has graced us with his presence. Senator West.
Pleasure to be back. I remember fondly my 4 years as a delegate, attending all of these weekly meetings. So yes, Delegate Stein and I have discussed it, and I had no objection if the House delegation wants to conform the Senate bill to the bill that the House passed last week.
So I feel as if we have a motion from Delegate Stein for the amendments to conform the Senate bill. I have a second? Is there any discussion on the amendment? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the amendment to House Bill 338, which will conform it to the Senate, to the House version, raise your hands, or if you're not on screen, put your little hand up. Thank you. And those against the amendments. And for that, you need to speak, so I know you're there, just in case.
No.
Okay, I have a no on the amendments. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, any other no's on the amendments?
No.
Okay, Bob, Delegate Long has also voted no on the amendment. We have
I was a yes, but I couldn't get my hand up.
That's all right. We went with generally yes. Otherwise, Speaker Jones, I see your hand up. I just want to make sure that we're addressing whether if you're voting. Okay, voting yes. We'll take that as a vote yes. So we have a constitutional majority. I believe we have 19 members present, and that means the count is 17-2 on that bill. On the amendment. Now, on the bill as amended, do I have a motion? And I'll go to Dana Stein again, Delegate Stein.
So moved. Move the bill as
Okay.
amended.
And I thought I heard a second. I saw Delegate Bhandari light up and heard his voice. So I'm going to take that as a second. Bill's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the bill as amended? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of the bill as amended, raise your hands or say aye.
Aye.
And holding now, drop your hands, please. Those who are against, please. Either
No.
speak. Okay, I have a no from Delegate Grammer and a no from Delegate Mangione.
No.
I have a no from Delegate Nawaki.
No.
A no from Delegate Long. Okay, I have 4. Okay, and that would make the count 15 to 4 in favor. So we will send that bill to Environment Transportation with the amendments. And that concludes the voting on Senate Bill 338. Senate Bill 915, sorry, I'm working on my voice a little here. Vehicle laws, private roadways, residential communities. Also, Delegate Stein, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the cross-file of a bill that I introduced and was approved as amended by the House delegation last month. And as amended, this bill makes a pilot program in the Queen Anne community for for the police, the county police, to be able to enforce the motor vehicle laws in the community. And it's a pilot program that ends after 3 years. So this is the cross file, and I would propose to amend SB 915 to place in the same posture as the cross file. And I'm sorry, I don't have the number handy right now, but I will find it very fast.
You want me to cross-file that? Cross-file. We'll get it.
Charity's got it.
Okay, Charity, do you have the cross-file number for us?
Oh, it's House Bill 528,
Okay.
but Senate Bill 915 already matches House Bill 528 as amended by the
Okay,
House.
thank you. That's important. So we don't have to amend it. We just need a motion on the bill that has been brought before us.
So I would move the bill.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of the bill brought to us by the Senate, which is actually in the same format as our House bill, raise your hands or say aye. Thank you. And now if you all drop your good positive hands, and we can see if there are any votes against this bill.
No.
I have a no from Delegate Grammer. And that seems to be the only one. So that bill will carry 18 votes for and 1 vote against. We will send that on to I think, EMT for consideration. That concludes the voting on Senate Bill 915. We're now on Senate Bill 352. This bill comes over to us not in the form we sent it. It has only the adjustments that were suggested for the Republican Party Central Committee. We were going to kind of quickly tack on the Democratic Central Committee. It was really just house cleaning, no change to the way they actually operate. But I got a couple of questions from Central Committee members who I guess they should trust us, but they would like to look at it before we attach the amendments. Also, we didn't get in touch with the Senate sponsor in time, and I don't like to do that unless I have an idea how the Senate sponsor stands on it. So we are going to simply remind you that this bill reduced the number of Republican Party Central Committee members in Baltimore County from 4 in each councilmanic district to 3 in each councilmanic district. And the amendments that we attached merely updated the operations and the number of votes for the Central Committee, the Democratic Central Committee, to reflect their current practice. We'll be bringing that amendment and bill forward tomorrow. That's my hearing on the bill. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, seeing none, that will be on our agenda for next week. Now we move to 2 bills that are relatively new to us. They have House cross files, but because they were filed late, they have both been languishing in the Rules Committee. Unfortunately, in a oversight, when these bills came from the Senate, they were also assigned to the Rules Committee. They're currently there. So I'm not interested in voting on a bill that's still in rules. I believe they're coming out, but I'd like to procedurally like to see them assigned to a committee before we take them up. However, in the interest of time and making sure that we give them proper consideration as we are coming down to the wire, I agreed to treat this as a hearing. And so we will first go to, I think it's a little faster, so I'm going to go to Senate Bill 1030 first, which is Delegate, it took me a while, but I'll get it. Senator Attar, vehicle laws, lighting on privately owned vehicles. And so, Senator, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm still also getting used to it. Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. It's a pleasure to be here with you. So as you said, Delegate Dana Stein has the cross file of this, but with my transition, it was filed late in the House. So it is in rules. I was told that Monday evening it's going to be taken out of rules. So I'm looking forward to that happening soon. So there's an organization that started in Baltimore City. It's also in Baltimore County now. It's within my district, Delegate Stein's district. It's specifically called Hatzalah of Baltimore. And what it is, it's an emergency EMT response unit, and they respond to about an average of 1,800 calls a year between Baltimore City and Baltimore County. I know in Baltimore City, they actually share radios with Baltimore City Fire Department, and they send calls to them as well. And I'll let you do the math with the amount of money that they've been saving, both the city and the county, for them responding to this. They're all volunteers. They don't get paid for this. And they've been around for about, I guess, 15 years or so, maybe a little bit longer. In 2020, they approached the MVA because due to congestion, it was taking them longer to get to calls. They have a couple of ambulances, but what they primarily do is they'll respond first in their personal vehicles to your house and treat you while you're waiting for the ambulance to come. So, for example, when my son went into anaphylactic shock, they responded, they came, they took care of him until the ambulance came and took him, and they were there within minutes. So in 2020, they went to the NBA and they asked if they can, there's a statute that says on rescue squads, 5 vehicles, you can put red lights on there. And the NBA approved it. And in fact, the NBA has allowed them to have, I believe they have about 25 and upward or something like that of vehicles right now, private vehicles that they respond with their lights. About a couple of months ago, the NBA approached them and said, the statute, we don't believe is fully clear that it fully allows for it on the private vehicles. So they contacted me. I've been working with the NBA, and the NBA suggested that we amend the statute or put in a bill that would clarify it so there's no question as to whether or not they could do it. So what this bill does, the NBA did not revoke their authority to do it. They're still responding. They only respond to priority 1 calls, although the statute and NBA says they can respond to any emergency calls, but their policy is only priority 1. Their responders are all trained in EVOC. They drive ambulances, they drive their cars, they're all trained with that. So this bill would allow only for 5 of the vehicles, just like what's currently in the statute for rescue squads. And it's more of a clarifying bill that the NBA requested we put in. Now, I am having an amendment drafted at the request of Baltimore County, and it wasn't done in the Senate because it wasn't brought to us as a concern then. But right now, the bill, a lot of times we don't like to necessarily name an organization, and that's why we didn't in the bill. But the way it's written, they are the only organization that would be affected by this. But at the request of Baltimore County, we're drafting an amendment that just names the organization instead. So there's no question as to who can do this. So I will get that over to you right away. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Done with some alacrity there. Really like that. Quick question. This is procedural. I might have another one, but let's do this first. It's a Baltimore County, Baltimore City bill. Has the city delegation taken your version of the bill up yet?
So my understanding is the city delegation was not meeting this morning.
That was what I heard on the floor yesterday. So
yeah, so originally it was supposed to be heard this morning. I did not say that this bill passed the Senate, county and city delegations unanimously, and then it passed the Senate unanimously. So I'm hopeful that the city delegation will take this up next week. Obviously, the committee is not going to take a vote until we have letters of support from both Baltimore City and Baltimore County.
Okay, great. And we'll look forward to see what they've got. I will interact with the chair there to make sure that we're in cahoots a little bit. All right. So some questions about the concept of the bill itself. Delegate Cardin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator. It's just you. You don't have any witnesses, right?
No, it's just me.
So a couple questions. First of all, volunteer fire companies already have this authority, right, to use their lights on their EMS vehicles. Isn't that correct?
So I believe, and so does this organization, and so did the NBA for 5 years, that they already had this authority under the statute. The NBA now, they're not 100% sure that it's clear, so that's why this is like a clarifying bill. So the answer is NBA doesn't for sure believe that, and that's why we have the bill. But for the last 5 years, they did think that.
Okay.
So
does Hatsala have a board?
I believe so.
And
yes.
Do they have an annual budget a budget meeting where they can discuss the budget and provide it to people?
I'm assuming so, but I can't say for sure. I can ask them to follow up with you.
They get state grant money, don't they? And local grant money.
You may know the answer to that better than me.
I do believe they had an ambulance. Do you know the answer?
I believe they do.
Okay.
My question or concern is perhaps one of the issues is that they're not as transparent with how money is being used, and whether it's being done properly, both from a financial standpoint, but also from a safety standpoint. And so, and perhaps that's where maybe Department of Transportation or Department of Motor Vehicles maybe said, maybe we should take a look. I'm just putting that out there as a, I know how diligent my volunteer fire companies are with providing information when asked, when if questions ever arise with fiduciary responsibilities. And I'm wondering if maybe this could be an issue, and I'm just putting that out there. Not to say that I don't want these folks to be saving people's lives. I do.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. I don't know the answer to all those questions specifically. Like, this doesn't involve money. We're not asking for money or anything like that. What I can say is they are a nonprofit. So my understanding is that should be available. But in terms of this bill, I don't have an answer.
Right. I wonder, because of, just different responses to information, that maybe there's information we are not aware of that has nothing to do with the safety standards of Hatzalah, which I know are very, very high, but with other areas. And that's why maybe questions were raised. And this is how it was taken care of. I'm putting that out there as a thought.
Got it.
I can only imagine why. I can't imagine why else. So
Sounds like a topic for discussion in the coming week for you guys, for sure. Delegate Naraki, you have a question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I apologize, I don't have the actual reprint of the bill in front of me, so I probably would answer my question. But are we talking about vehicles that are owned by the nonprofit or vehicles that are owned by private individuals?
They're personal vehicles. So what's happening is when they get a call, there are only a few ambulances. So these volunteers are jumping in their vehicles and responding with all their proper equipment.
Sure,
and
I certainly appreciate that. Sorry, Senator, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, in the current statute, it just says it allows for 5 of the highest ranking officers for rescue squad. So it's the same concept of the personal vehicles.
Okay, so we would it would be limited to 5. I know, so I'm a member of a local volunteer fire department. This has been a kind of constant pain point. I'll describe it that way, where, obviously members of the volunteer fire station are trying to get there as quickly as they can. Others would like to have the ability to get to the fire station faster. And there's been a lot of pushback over the years to kind of expand that. So I just kind of wanted to understand kind of what position we were in with that. So thank you for that clarification. Frankly, I think this is a good bill. I think, frankly, we should expand it to others to allow volunteer firefighters to get into the firehouse faster. But I know that's not the topic of this bill. So maybe that's a topic for Delegate Stein and I to address it in the future on the House side. So thank you.
Thanks for that. I do a question, and I will take Charity or Dahlia or even Baltimore County might know the answer to this question. Do we limit the number at volunteer fire stations right now, the number of people that have this authority?
So we took the exact same language. No more than 5 of the highest ranking officers may have their privately vehicles owned. It's the same thing for regular rescue squads. 5 of the highest ranking. Yeah.
Okay.
Same language.
So that's good. It's good in parallel. Are there any other questions for Senator Attar on her bill? Yes, Delegate Stein.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I was just to chime in to say that, confirm what Senator Attar said, is that this language is modeled on what's available for volunteer fire companies. And, Attar is in the community, a very significant, first responder organization. So that's why this request has come in.
And you may have said this, because sometimes I'm figuring out who's in the meeting and who's not, and I'm not listening to every single word. But this is sort of seen as a necessity by the community because of the unique restrictions that they can adhere to. Is that correct?
Well, I could tell you that over time, this started in Baltimore City, the response time, unfortunately, they're overworked, not enough responders for Baltimore City in general. I know we're seeing the same thing in Baltimore County. So I was told last week that it could take up to 45 minutes for an ambulance to respond. And I know the 2 times, for example, that they responded to me, one time my son had a very severe asthma attack and couldn't breathe. And 45 minutes wouldn't have worked. 3 minutes worked for him when he went into anaphylactic shock. So it's more so responding very quickly. And when, like I said, sometimes Baltimore City would dispatch calls directly to them because they know, okay, we don't have anyone to send out right now. Can you go? They'll just go and respond to it. So that's
my question was more, are they unique in that they can be responsive to needs for the orthodoxy considerations? I
don't think so, meaning they respond to calls from anyone. So It's not, they don't just respond to Orthodox individuals. The volunteers, most of them are, I think all of them probably are, but anyone can volunteer. Well, when I say anyone can volunteer, it takes a long process. You have to go in a regular ambulance for a long time. You have to train, you have to get your license, and everything, but they respond to anyone. So
Yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
don't
And
think
I'm
so.
going to try one more time because I'm not doing a good job. And I'm going to demonstrate a little of my ignorance, but I was led to believe by someone that when someone is being treated who is in an emergency situation, who is an Orthodox Jew, there might be restrictions on the way and the manner they can be treated. And so maybe that was false, but someone told me that. So I'm just asking.
So, you know what? I would say I don't know.
Okay.
That hasn't been brought to my attention. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure is the answer.
I'm going to go back and tell that person that they've embarrassed me in front of my delegation. Okay, so there you go.
You may be right. I'm sorry.
I
I
just
don't know
wanted to
the answer
clarify.
to that.
Yeah, and it's a clarifying. It was supportive if that's necessary, but it may or may not be. So we'll see what happens. Are there any other questions for Senator Tar about Senate Bill 352? And I'm sorry, wrong one. Senate Bill 1030 or its cross file, which Delegate Stein has in rules right now. Okay, seeing none, that ends the hearing on Senate Bill 1030. We're going to move to Senate Bill 656, Baltimore County Board of Education alterations, elected member districts. And for that, we have Senator Charles Sidnor, my very own.
Thank you very much. This bill, I think, has been assigned to your Rules and Executive Nominations Commission. Initially, it took me by surprise, but after checking, what I was told was that redistricting bills in the House are always assigned to Executive Noms and Rules. So I'm assuming that that's how this is being classified. So as we all know, in 2014, state laws changed. That the Baltimore County Board of Education, it changed it from an appointed one to a hybrid of elected and appointed members. So current law states or provides that the Baltimore County Board of Education consists of 7 nonpartisan elected members, 4 appointed members, and 1 student member. The 7 elected members are, in accordance to our law, to be elected from each of the 7 councilmatic districts in the county, established by the County Council of Baltimore County by the voters of that district. As we all know, the County Council is increasing from 7 to 9 members. Therefore, and we have an election that's coming up in 2026. So after seeking the input of several stakeholders,
I called yesterday and left a message on fair one.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. They got it for you. Thank you.
Thank you. We looked at this and talking with a number of members. Number one, people were not interested in a larger school board. So it was clear that decreasing the number of gubernatorial appointments was unacceptable. So I set out to produce a method that kept things as close to status quo as possible, but addressed the reality that the number of the elected school board members were tied to a 7-member county council. I looked at several school systems that elected school board members to determine how best to proceed, and Montgomery County provided a framework which we could use here in Baltimore County. So Senate Bill 656 proposes that new framework. If we do not want to increase the school board and we do not want to modify the balance with which we have our hybrid board, we had to create a school board district separate and apart from county council districts. So Senate Bill 656 uses the 7 current county council districts and converts them to school board districts. We would use the current council districts for the 2026 and the 2030 elections, and Baltimore County voters will continue to vote for a school board member who would be a resident living within their school board district. Under Senate Bill 656 and beginning with the next census in 2030, school board districts will be reapportioned after the census, effective until the following census is taken. The mechanics of the redistricting process are intended to mimic what is done in Montgomery County. Our county school board would submit proposed reapportioned maps to all of us in the House as well as in the Senate. both of the delegations by December 1st of that calendar year, immediately following the census. And we would take the proposal under consideration, introduce legislation that next legislative session, creating school board districts for the 2034 election. And to be clear, we are not obligated to accept its proposals and may introduce legislation that differs from the proposal from the school board. So it's fully within the hands of the Maryland General Assembly's Baltimore County delegations. So starting with the 2034 general election, one member will be elected from each of the 7 school board districts established by this aforementioned redistricting process. And those reapportioned districts will be substantially equal in population. And obviously, they would have to follow the state constitution and how they're drawn. So in conclusion, as I noted from the beginning of current law dictates that one member is elected from each of the 7 councilmanic districts in the county established by the county council. So we cannot wait until the next legislative session to address this. We have to address this matter this session. When one wants to look at the election calendar, this upcoming fall is generally when our boards of elections will begin creating those ballot specimens and things. So it behooves us to ensure that we pass something this session. So in 2026, there will be 9 council districts that would no longer be aligned with the education code. For that and the aforementioned reasons, I ask this delegation for a favorable report on Senate Bill 656. There should be at least 2 witnesses that wanted to testify on this legislation.
Thank you, sir. And we appreciate your testimony. We're going to let them testify before we go to questions on this first. And we have Molly Jost, current member of the Baltimore County School Board. For guest witnesses, we allow 2 minutes for your presentation. Ms. Jost, you have the floor.
Thank you, Delegate Ebersol. Members of the committee, good morning. My name is Molly Jost, and I am testifying in support of Senate Bill 656. I'm a former member of the Baltimore County Board of Education, and I was appointed on the board by Governor Hogan and served from December 2018 until April 2023. As we all know, we have 176 schools in Baltimore County Public Schools with a very rich, multicultural, diverse student body population. As a member at large, I represented the entire county, and my decisions on the board were based with every student in mind and not just the councilmanic district I live in. One of the first things I learned on the board from the late County Executive Roger Hayden, who also served on the school board with me, and the last Republican county executive, was we should all view ourselves as members at large. We should consider all schools and all children while making decisions and not just a few. And we can all agree that every child should have the opportunity and resources to receive a quality education without being politicized. Senate Bill 656 provides a robust framework for adjusting the school districts based on demographic shifts, that all Baltimore County residents have equal representations in decisions affecting their schools, as well as making sure that the appointed nonpartisan members at large try to keep our boards as fair as possible. With the recent attacks on education at the federal level, it has become even more important and urgent that we have members on the local school boards that ensure fair and equitable outcomes in education for all of our children. This bill, by modifying the elected member districts and establishing a structured redistricting process following each decennial U.S. Census, ensures that. And with some schools being in one councilmanic districts, but another school district, will hopefully help remove some of the partisanal politics in the school board that I have witnessed while serving on it. I thank you for your time.
Yeah. And thank you. You either have a clock in your head or a clock in front of you. Your timing is excellent, and I appreciate that. We also have Lauren Meredith to testify. Ms. Meredith, you have the floor.
Good morning, and thank you to the entire Baltimore delegation for allowing me to testify this morning. My name is Lauren Ty Meredith. I am a resident of District 11B, a mother of 2 Baltimore County school children, and a proud product of public education. I'm here today to support SB 656. As a leader of mentoring programs working in partnership with Baltimore County high schools, I have experienced how representation can positively impact policies and procedures while improving outcomes for students. Attending school board meetings, I feel our hybrid board lends expertise, knowledge, and a neutral lens to many topics addressed by Baltimore County Board of Education. While our elected officials provide the voice of residents, our appointed members bring a diverse range of skills and expertise to complement our elected officials. Appointments to the board ensure that the board is as diverse as the public it intends to serve. Using census data, this bill helps ensure that our school board can respond to population shifts and growth. Using a framework that has been vetted, debated, and adopted by Montgomery County allows Baltimore County to confidently move forward with this model. Montgomery County is the largest school system in Maryland with a diverse student body. Montgomery County is a leader in public education and is used for benchmarking data and outcomes. It is responsible and efficient leadership for Baltimore County to look to this established framework as a viable solution. Further, as we see school boards across our country become over-politicized and at times more focused on politics than the actual work of county government, I'm urging delegation to support this bill. With 9 county council districts and 7 school board districts, this bill facilitates cooperation, collaboration, and communication at the local level. Our school board officials run as nonpartisan and as such can partner with multiple county council officials to better serve schools, students, and parents. This type of relationship building furthers collaboration, consensus, innovation, and strengthens our local officials' abilities to find solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your testimony. Questions from the delegation? Delegate Grammer, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Senator Sidnor, good to see you. I didn't quite understand the mechanism. Can you summarize for me one more time the disagreement and how it would be structured if we pass this bill?
Sure, it stays essentially the same. We'll have the same number of elected school board members, the same number of appointed school board members, as well as a student member. The thing that is different under current law, it states that we have 7 council districts and the 7 elected school board members, they run in those 7 councilmatic districts. So since the county council is changing, we will no longer have 7 council districts. We're going to have 9 council districts, which the county is currently going through that redistricting process. So what this bill does is it modifying the law, it bifurcates what we currently do, tie in school board members, elected school board members to county council seats. It creates their very own elected school board districts. But those school board districts are going to be the same districts that the county council is currently using. And it'll be the same for the 2026 election and for the 2030 election. Thereafter, similar to what we do for the state redistricting process, as well as what we do with congressional redistricting, it will come back to this body or our body here in the General Assembly, and we would then take maps that have been drawn or proposed by the Baltimore County School Board, and then we would then decide, and we would put into law whatever those maps would be for the next 10 years.
So, and with that, at that point, would it be 7 or 9 members?
It's not. It will be the same. This doesn't change anything. So it's the bill. It keeps it at 7 elected members.
Okay, so at that point, the Baltimore County delegation would draw these maps.
After 2030, correct.
Okay, and why not? I understand there may be a matter of timing, but why not aim for a situation where we just shifted some of the appointed positions to facilitate the growth from 7 to 9? Can you explain that to me one more time?
Sure. There's no appetite here in the Senate to do so, and I think as Ms. Joseph, Ms. Meredith pointed out, before what they pointed out, I believe when the legislation was first done, and some of you were here back when the hybrid board was created, there was a balancing that was done by the advocates in the legislature when they decided how many people that they wanted to serve on the school board as elected officials and how many they wanted to serve on the board as appointed officials. And that balance was done because we wanted to ensure that communities were represented on the school board. So that balance is not going to be touched as again, and as Ms. Jones and Ms. Meredith pointed out, one of the great things about that is with this hybrid board is you have the opportunity to have people who are elected who tend in the past, what I've observed is they're uh, 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 certainly advocates for their districts. The at-large members, the appointed members, they're looking at the entire school system. They don't necessarily have that same allegiance to whatever district that they live in, but they're watching over the entire school system, and they've been thoroughly vetted and appointed by our governor. They're and I will say, just in talking with my colleagues over here in the Senate, there's no appetite to change that.
Okay, thank you. Delegate Naraki.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator, good to see you. Thank you for being here. I very closely followed the debate over the past year or so about the expansion of the county council. And of course, a lot of that debate was about giving voices to communities they may not have as much of a voice as maybe they should. Growth in the county since the council was created it has been tremendous. So I guess I'm confused by this. Why would it not be a good thing? More from other communities elected in a nonpartisan way.
So he broke up a little. Senator Sinner, were you able to understand the question?
No.
Okay, Delegate Naraki, we're gonna have to come back to you. I had a little trouble getting the nature of the question, so we'll keep your hand up and see if you can get to a spot. We'll try to catch you.
Mr. Chair, is that am I better?
You're still busting up a little bit on us. I'm sorry.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
We'll get back to you. Delegate Bhandari. I need to unmute, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Senator, for the wonderful bill. If I understand correctly, this bill seeks to reform our members of the Baltimore County Board of Education. They're elected by replacing this outdated councilmanic district with dedicated school board district by 2034, right? And it also create a redistricting process that ensure population equity after U.S. Census, right? And mandates the term limit as well. Did I understand correctly?
That's pretty much it. So what this bill also does is it says that the school board districts will begin for 2026. It's just that they will be the current county council councilmanic district. So that's what it'll be for 26, and that's what it'll be for 30. But everything else that you said thereafter is accurate.
You want to make the board more accountable, transparent, and representative of Baltimore County family. Is that correct?
No, it'll stay exactly the same. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, Delegate Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill. I'm quite supportive of this effort. One of the questions that has come up is why now? And couldn't we wait until next year? Could you address that concern?
Absolutely. Two points to that. Number one, again, we have a 2026 election next year. So many of you, once you get out of session, you're going to begin getting your campaigns and things together to run for whatever office it is that you're going to run for. Most of us who went through the redistricting process and were waiting for our body to draw the lines knows how nerve-wracking it can be until you finally know which districts you're going to run in. By passing this legislation, those who are interested in running for the school board, they will know that they'll be running in these particular districts that we currently have. So that's number one. On an additional practical level, and I tried to note this in my testimony, the Board of Elections, they have a job to do. and they have to put together these ballot specimens, and will likely be working on that in the fall. So the longer we wait, I think the more difficult time they'll have in trying to meet what they need to do.
Could I ask another question of Ms. Meredith?
Certainly,
Chair?
certainly.
I had a technical difficulty, so I didn't hear all of Ms. Meredith's testimony. But one of the concerns that has also been raised is this idea of balance. And so if we were to add, let's say, 2 new members of the school board in elected positions in Councilmatic, to ensure balance, that would suggest we would probably need to add another appointed official, which would take the board up to a pretty high number. What is the norm or standard for the number of board members on a school board around the state? If you know that, if you have that information. I get very concerned about governance when you get to 15, 16, 17, 18 board members. So if you could address that, Ms. Meredith.
Thank you so much for the question. I'm actually here speaking as a resident. I do not serve on the school board. I am a citizen. I would ask if Senator Senior has those numbers. It's my understanding in researching this bill that the stakeholders here in Baltimore County are not looking to expand the school board.
Miss Meredith, she is correct, but I will point out that Montgomery County, which has certainly a larger population than Baltimore County, has a smaller school board than Baltimore County.
Just for a sense of scale, Baltimore County is either the largest or the second largest county school board or city school board in the state right now. Prince George's was larger, but I believe they reduced the size of theirs. So to scale, that's where we are. We're way above the median and perhaps in very high quartile there.
So, Mr. Chair, that seems to me to be another reason why we don't want to change the number. That's governance is really, really tough, and the larger you make that universe, creates even more challenges, in my opinion. So,
thank you for addressing me. I was just giving information that you asked.
No, thank you. Thank you for responding. Thank you.
Okay, let's try Delegate Naraki again, please. You're muted. At least we will only hear you if you unmute Delegate Naraki. I'm going to count backwards from 5 here.
Okay. Wait a minute.
All right, we'll come back to him. Delegate Pasteur.
Thank you. I just really want to answer the question. Baltimore County does have the largest school board nationwide. School boards are going down, not up. 14. It's untenable. It just would not work. So the whole notion is to try to keep the school board at the same size, but to make sure we're serving all communities. So keeping the districts as they are now, even though they're political districts, but keeping or making them school board districts, you're still covering every community in Baltimore County. So no community, no matter what the council does, will be unserved. The school board person will still be representing a body of students. And as our 2 witnesses have said, our at-large members cover everyone anyway. So if you like the hybrid board, if you like the notion of 4 folks who are appointed, then this is the way, at least right now, this is the way to do it, because something will need to change otherwise. So if you don't,
this is good discussion for the voting for next week. Do you have a question for the witnesses?
I will get to that.
Okay,
If
great.
you are interested in keeping it as you have it, then you want to keep what the bill says. So now for my question, but there were questions that were not asked. That's why I, as a person who served on the school board, am giving this information. So, Senator Sidnor, have I described? I want to just make sure what I've just said as a person who was on the school board, I am describing what will happen and what will continue to happen under your bill.
Yes, ma'am.
Was that yes, ma'am? I'm correct or just
You're
yes?
correct. Isn't that so? Thank you very much, Delegate Pastor.
I
Delegate-
did ask a question.
You did.
So.
Isn't that so? Is essentially the question. Thank you very much. Delegate Forbes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Sidner, for thinking about this issue and bringing forth the bill. I really appreciate it. You said that you patterned it after Montgomery County's bill and the way they do it, but their at-large members are elected countywide. Is
Right.
that something you would ever consider? Because I know you've had
No.
criticisms of our school board nominating commission.
Right, right. No, that portion of it was not included because the at-large districts, well, just to be totally frank, Baltimore County has a sort of pass when it comes to certain types of elections. And if we were to create at-large districts, I do not believe that we would be then getting the diversity that we were seeking when we created the hybrid board the way that we did, where you had 7 more focused districts and these at-large appointments.
Thank you for that answer. And would you ever consider, because the map that's supposed to add 2 more councilmatic districts is supposed to make more, because clearly there is a problems with the maps the way they were drawn for the council now that there's not more diversity on our council. If the maps had more diversity and would lead to more diverse candidates, would you go to a 9 with 2 appointed? Would you consider that to keep the same?
No, again, there's no appetite here in the Senate to have any additional elected members. But to your other statement, it at one point, as I was talking with stakeholders, I did consider, and it was very briefly, whether or not we needed to re-examine the drawing of the lines. However, as I said, and with an election year coming up, these lines that have been drawn and accepted by a federal judge, they follow the Voting Rights Act. So there was no need to tinker with what has already been said to be legal. So I thought it would be in the best interest to keep the status quo at this time and look forward to doing the things that we needed to do after the census.
Thank you. I appreciate your work on this.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Delegate, and thank you, Senator. One last bite at the apple. Delegate Naraki, any chance we can talk to you?
Mr. Chair, am I okay now? Is it better
Doing
now?
better.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess what I was trying to say, and I don't know where I got cut off, was, I followed that debate very closely about the council expansion, about the need to represent various communities better, frankly, than we are currently, and to add more diverse voices. So I guess where my question is, and I appreciate, Senator, what you're saying, that there's no appetite in the Senate right now, but I'm not really sure there was a lot of appetite on the council initially to expand either. So why would it not be better for the county? Why would it not give us more diverse voices by having 2 additional elected members on the board? I'm confused by that.
This was the deal that was struck when we created the hybrid board. And as I stated, there's no appetite to have any more elected school board members. As was mentioned by me and some of our witnesses, having the appointed members has been a benefit to the board, and we're just not looking to try to make that such a big change going into a new election board or election season.
Thank you. Delegate Szeliga.
Sorry, I was looking for unmute. Just 2 quick questions. So, Senator Sidnor, thanks for being here, explaining this bill. So, what kind of diversity are you looking for on the board?
I'm not looking for, look, you're going to have 7 people who are going to be duly elected, and you're going to have 4 members that are appointed through the appointments process. So whatever that process is, whatever comes to be the results, then so be it.
Okay, because I thought I kept hearing people talk about we need more diversity on the board. Was I not
And
hearing that?
no, you heard it, and I think that with the hybrid board that we've had with the electeds and the appointments, we've hit that balance. I mean, you could look at the current school board, and I think that's what you have.
Well, I mean, we could use some more men on the board. There's only 2 men on the board, so I don't think
yeah,
there's
I hear you.
adequate diversity in gender wise. I think I'm looking at the school board. Racially, it looks pretty diverse.
And
But
I know one of the men was appointed, and you had just one man that ran, so you could have more males run.
yeah.
So
That would be great. I'd love to see some more men on the school board. But finally, my question would be this. Why did the Republicans vote against it in the Senate?
I believe I can speak. Two of the 3 Republicans that I spoke to, I believe they wanted to have additional elected school board members, and that's where they stood.
Okay, so they were for increasing the size of the board.
No, they were for decreasing the number of appointed school board members from 4 to 2, and increasing the number of elected school board members from 7 to 9, so that they match the county council. That's my understanding. Not to be speaking for them, but that was my understanding.
Okay, and you entertained that, I'm assuming, because you're a reasonable guy that looks to, listen to your colleagues. And you decided having less elected members was a better idea.
We decided that having the current model that we're using to be the better idea.
All right, thank you for answering my questions. Thanks,
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair.
It's important for me to note that there is a cross file of this bill, which also was filed late, which is residing in rules. Delegate McCaskill has the matching bill to this. And so by taking up this one, we would be, in essence, taking up hers as well. Usually if we pass a bill that the Senate sends over, we'll pull our version out of rules and pass it as well. I do, yeah. Delegate Ross, there you are. You got a question. Great to see you.
I do. Good morning. I apologize. I don't have much of a voice this morning. But I just wanted to say, I wanted to thank Senator Sidnor for bringing this bill. I think if you ever expand anybody, school board, council, whatever, there needs to be a reason to do it. And so I think the question here is, like, what is the reason? We've talked about all the reasons why it's not a good idea. There's no, it's not good, as Delegate Phillips mentioned, it's not good to have a school board it's too big. It is hard, it is, difficult. So for consensus purposes and everything else. So to me, I think the council, they had a reason. They expanded the council because they were trying to create more diversity or more opportunity for diversity. And they were trying to reduce the sizes of the districts so that it would better represent the population, so that those representatives could serve those districts better. We don't have either of those problems on the school board. So it is diverse. We can argue about whether or not it's diverse enough, but it's certainly not the situation.
Delegate Ross, and as much as this is a hearing, and this is
Right.
opinions you can give us during voting, do you have a question for the sponsor?
I do. So my question is, so the size of the school board, I think the school board, the representatives represent maybe 10 or 11,000 students or something like that. My question is, do we know if that's right, 10 or 11,000 students per district or per school board member, and how does that compare to just across the state and the country? Do we have that number?
I do not have that number.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll look forward to those opinions when we bring the bill for voting. Absolutely. And just, it's the correct time for that. I see Naraki's hand up, but I have a feeling he's teching out right now. And so I don't see any other questions for the sponsor or for the witnesses. Seeing none, and we don't have anyone who has signed up opposed to this bill, this will conclude the hearing. on Senate Bill 658. I thank all the senators who came today, including the one sitting currently in front of us on this bill. And that brings us to the end of our meeting, or as the speaker likes to say, that ends the work for the day. So does anyone, for the good of the order, any announcements or anyone from anyone? Okay, seeing none, we're adjourned. We'll see you in less than 25 minutes on the floor.
Yes, be on time.
Yes, ma'am.